So Bad Batch Season 3, the final season, just came out with a new trailer. And before we get into this, I will say, I've talked about it before and other things, but when it comes to the Bad Batch, I don't really like the show. At this point, I am only watching it to watch these characters die, because stuff like Halo Reach and Akamega Kill has stunted my perception of these kind of stories. But of course, the difference between those series and this is that I don't give a shit about the Bad Batch. But despite all that, we are on the third and final season of this, and this trailer came out and it ended with the shot of Ventress. Now, of course, that would have been much more of a shock to see in the trailer if it wasn't literally the fucking thumbnail of the trailer. And well, that's the bulk of what we're gonna discuss here today, because the rest of the trailer just looks like Bad Batch typical stuff. Nothing else really stood out to me in it, other than, there was a shot of Wolf. But this whole Ventress debacle. Now, from what I've seen and heard, that they were very quick to talk about how this is not going to be retconning the Dark Disciple book, and it's going to be aligning with that. Which, if you haven't, I highly recommend that you read Dark Disciple. It was originally going to be a Clone Wars arc, before the show got sacked and canceled. It's a book that follows the events of Ventress and Quinlan Vos, following where we last leave off with the character of Ventress, and ultimately showing and explaining how you won't be seeing her much past the events of Revenge of the Sith. But lo and behold, Bad Batch. Now, I've already been seeing a bunch of theories and prayers, honestly. The biggest theory is that it's probably not that Ventress is alive. It might be that the Bad Batch actually run into Quinlan Vos, which, considering the fact that we know he survives Order 66, and at the very least he survives up to the events of the Kenobi series, it makes sense that they would maybe run into him. And the theory is that maybe they run into him and he talks about Ventress or something, and it's a flashback. And just the way the trailer's edited and shown, it's meant to deceive you into thinking that they run into Ventress. It's all ultimately just a marketing ploy. It's clickbait. Clickbait that I will not fall victim to. It's just to make sure that people actually watch the show and give intrigue into it. It's meant to stir up controversy, which I'm making a video on it, so you've succeeded, Disney. Now, I'm not gonna cast a bunch of judgment until we actually see the show properly, as it will be airing on February 21st of next month, and no, I will not be doing reactions to it, because again, when it comes to the Bad Batch, I don't care. Season 1 was fine, and for me, Season 2 was honestly bad. I did not like it at all. The only episodes I did like were the ones that were focused on Crosshair, in which it didn't focus on the Bad Batch at all, because out of all of them, the Crosshair story is the most interesting, and I feel like it actually adds something to the world, because it's actually showing the ins and outs of the Empire immediately post Revenge of the Sith, which is really cool, how it's setting up stormtroopers and all this stuff, giving seeds to different projects. Whereas with the Bad Batch, whenever they're doing their stupid odd jobs, and it's just kiddie adventure, Omega is a horrible character. She's so fucking annoying, because that's just the theme we're going with these Disney shows, is that we just can't have characters just be themselves. They have to go through some father arc. It happens in every single one of these goddamn Disney Plus shows, with the exception of Book of Boba and Andor, which, even so, I would argue I enjoy those character stories more than anything else that Disney has put out. But when it comes to this whole Ventress debacle, spoilers for Dark Disciple, Ventress dies in that book, and it's not a case of her fate is maybe open-ended where it's it cuts away or whatever. It's no, she dies. It's not a case of if and or maybe. She's dead. The only way I can see this actually being fair and lining up with it is that they run into Quinlan Vos and he shares some stories or something and it's visualized. Because if it's a case where Ventress is alive, that doesn't line up with the book. That completely retcons it. But then again, Disney loves to say that they're not retconning certain books, but yet they completely do. Case in point, the Ahsoka novel. They literally have done that. They're oh yeah, the Ahsoka book, yeah, it still is canon or whatever, even though the events that transpire in the Clone Wars and the different Tales of the Jedi stuff completely retcons what happens in the book. Again, it doesn't make the book any less good. All this to say, Disney, they're not gonna stop, because money is money, and they'll milk any franchise for any ounce they can till it's bone fucking dry. And even then, they'll resurrect it and keep milking it again and again. This trailer was just case in point of they'll just take anything at this point. Because I remember, because like, oh, Dave Filoni's been promoted to chief or whatever, and people are like, oh, that means good things. It doesn't mean anything. At this point, even though I still love Star Wars and I'll still watch the stuff that it puts out, I've lost all faith that we'll ever get anything amazing again. The only things that have been put out in terms of Disney Star Wars that was like, yes, season 1 of Mandalorian and Andor, because a lot of these other shows, they have either started fine and then gotten boring or mid. I mean, granted, there was also Tales of the Jedi, but there is a part of me that sort of keeps the animation separate from the live action stuff, because there's so much like unfinished and untapped Clone Wars stuff that they still have and could easily finish. I'd love for them to do like a Lost Missions 2. I know this pretty much is just a part 2 to my video where I was talking about the future does not look good for Star Wars, but I'm going off track. This is what happens when I talk about this shit. Again, we're mainly talking about this Bad Batch trailer with Ventress and all this shit. At the end of the day, again, it's all just bait to get people to watch it, which again, for some reason, there's just such a cult fan base for the fucking Bad Batch. I'll never get it, but then again, there's a cult fan base for just about everything. I'm hoping to see these motherfuckers die because I hate Disney introducing these characters that then are just left so open-ended, where you're gonna tell me they live up all the way past the end of the original trilogy and beyond. I want to watch people cry as these characters die, and I'm just there laughing and cheering like, yes, burn, baby, burn. I mean, if it's gonna be anything, it's gonna be a case where maybe the Bad Batch die and Omega lives, because you can't kill a kid, apparently. But I'm just glad that this is gonna be the final season, supposedly. There's nothing that's explicitly said that it is gonna be the final season. I know there was like the episode things already that came out with like the schedule, and it's like the last one says series finale, and of course in the trailer it says like one last fight or whatever. I'm sure it's gonna be like, this is the end of the Bad Batch, and now stay tuned for the Omega show. I don't care. I'm just gonna watch like the best of moments on YouTube or whatever later, just because again, I don't fucking care about these characters. I just want to watch them die. And then if there's any episodes that focus solely on Crosshair and just Crosshair, then I'll watch those. And at this point, I have lost all faith in everything when it comes to this Ventress thing. They better not retcon the book, because if they do, then they've completely just lost it. It's just so funny, because even if they do have it be a thing where it's like, oh, Ventress survived, there's gonna be some stupid fucking idiots that are gonna be like, oh, but like in the book, blah blah blah, it's like, it makes sense. It's like, no, it fucking doesn't. I know that death means nothing in the Star Wars universe anymore, but there has to be a line. Either way, I'm done talking about this fucking franchise. When it comes to Star Wars stuff this year, it's probably gonna be bone dry, because, you know, the whole writer strike thing happened, so there's probably gonna be very little stuff this year. It's probably just gonna be Bad Batch. I know Acolyte is still rumored to be this year, but that'll probably be later. But other than that, I don't plan to make too many Star Wars videos this year, which is fine, because they'll mainly turn into conversations like this. But either way, this was just my little rant about the Bad Batch trailer and the whole thing with Ventress, as well as just, I guess, the current state of Star Wars. Again, join me for many other videos of this sort, be they future discussion videos, reactions, reviews, gameplay, and everything else that'll be coming out soon. So until next time, I'm Lancer. Thanks for watching.